Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League's special 4 Cup for race 6 at the Blue Moon Infield A circuit. Before we have a look at how qualifying ended up, let's take a look at the current championship standings. After 5 races, the VWs have won all 5 of them. Steve F1 leading the way, 10-point gap between himself and SGP in second place. Demon R sits in third with Tyler only 6 points behind him in fourth, and then I've got a little bit of a gap down to Jason in fifth. SRI kind of leading the championship of the rest at the moment on 38 points, one ahead of Dave the Harp on 37, Rich Blues and Twilight both on 34, and then Gary right behind them, 10 points away, on 24, and he's one ahead of Mitch on 23. We then got Fluffy and Hay sharing 12th place at the moment on 20 points, and Conrad and Jimmy sharing 14th on 15 points each, and then Bunsell in 16th on 12 points. Okay, the Blue Moon Infield 8 circuit, it's a very interesting track with a tricky turn 1. Let's have a look at least the result of qualifying. We do wish we could show you qualifying, but unfortunately we can't. Okay, so row 1 is going to see DGT League SGP taking pole position just ahead of Steve F1. On row 2 we've got Jason alongside Tyler, so 4 VWs in the front 4 spots. And then we've got SRI starting P5, best of the rest. What a result for him in qualifying. He'll line up alongside Conrad. In P7 we've got Demon R, and he lines up alongside Dave the Harp in P8. Watch out for him at the start. The Alpha's a good starter. Twilight P9, good result last time. Could be a tricky race for him today alongside Mitch in P10. P11 sees Formula Gary line up alongside Rich Blues in P12, and then Jimmy in P13, so 3 Subarus together, and then Fluffy in 14th, Hay 15th, and Bunsell in 16th. Right, let's not hang about, let's head over to the commentary team. And joining me on commentary this week, it's Steve. How are you, Steve?
I'm good, thanks. I've just finished my beer and hot dog and ready for a good old American showdown.
I thought you was going to say something else there, but that's absolutely fine. We are at the Blue Moon Bay Infield A circuit as we wait for the lights to go out, and away they go eventually. And typically we've got 4 VWs out the front, all of them having a shocking start, but SRI in the Subaru, he's straight into the lead.
Yeah, an absolute rocket start from SRI, and he's got a lovely lead as well. But who's going to end up in second place? It looks like it's going to be Steve F1.
Steve
F1 has kind of got a bit fortunate maybe there. Not lost as many places we'd normally expect.
It's coming Gary though, it is coming Gary. He's having a look up the inside of SGP. He's managed to get the move on SGP. He has, and Mitch is going to try and follow him in. Oh, SGP though takes the side of Gary. He's going to have to let him go. Oh, and Connor's in the wall in the background.
Yeah, SGP, I don't know what happened. He looked like he was challenging for third initially, but now he's dropped down to fifth and having to recover. Now he's making the move on Formula Gary, who's back up to fourth. But yeah, it's a real battle for position at the moment.
It definitely is. Dave the Arm got a decent start as well. The Alpha is a good starter, as we've seen over the course of this championship. He's all over the back of Steve F1, but this is where the VW strength is going to come into it. Once they get through this final corner, the straight line speed in that VW, wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see a few people tagging that wall there as well. But SRI in the Subaru is going to lead the first lap of the race, or is Steve F1 going to pass him before the line? We've seen that happen here before.
Yeah, the straight line speed of that VW shining again, and I think he's going to get the move done here. Is SRI going to come back, or is he just going to sit in the slipstream and let them be towed along?
Well, SGP's having a look at the inside of Dave the Arp into turn 1 and gets that move done. Dave the Arp not fighting that one too hard. I mean, to be fair, it's probably wise not to, as Gary, I would say, he's running a bit wide, but actually that really high line on the exit can be a very fast way of exiting turn 1. I mean, there's a few different ways into the corner, but there's not many ways that's fast out of it, as Tyler's now all over the back of Formula Gary. Oh, Demon R sideways in the background behind Jason, and he's got a couple of Subarus behind him. Interestingly, Gary got from about 11th place at the start up to battling for 4th.
Yeah, I mean, we're slightly surprised we haven't seen more Subarus up at the front at this time. I don't know whether they just didn't have the space, but we're so used to seeing a couple of Subarus at the front in the early stages. But SRI is still hanging on to the back of Steve F1, interestingly here. So is he going to come back for the lead?
Well, he's got every opportunity. As Tyler having a look at the inside of Gary, and he's telling me that it's not a pretty sight, but he's got a decent run. VW on a Subaru down the main straight. Mitch in the background can't do a lot about these two at the moment, being in the slipstream. SGP closing in on SRI, but you know what? I think SRI, he is having a look at Steve F1. You know.
Yeah, we saw this at Suzuka early in the season when SRI was leading and then dropped behind. He was then able to up the pace to keep up with the VWs. So that's what he's got to do again here today. If he can just stay in those slipstream of the VWs, he could end up with it. Oh, what's going on here? That's Jason and Gary. A little bit of door-to-door there, and looks like Gary's lost a couple of places, but nothing too dramatic.
No, I think Rich has had a bigger crash in the background, trying to avoid everybody. As SRI is having a look at Steve F1 into the hairpin. I wouldn't be surprised if we see pretty much everybody covering the inside into the hairpin. It's one of those where, having raced here a few times, if you leave the door open, people will kick it down, even if it doesn't appear to be on. So it's one of those where, in actual fact, it's just as quick to straight line the approach to the hairpin and cover yourself at the same time. SRI, though, is in a brilliant situation here at the moment, as Tyler's closing in on the back of Dave the Harp, as we're 4 minutes into this race. I don't know what the situation is going to be like for fuel, because it's such a long time at full throttle around here as Steve F1 tries to break the toe. SGP got a decent slipstream, making the move now on SRI around the outside.
Yeah, who's going to come out on top here? SRI's got a nice line on the inside to cover SGP up, but SGP's got the switch back. But yeah, it's SRI with that traction of the Subaru is able to hold the position.
That he is, and also in the background, Tyler was able to make the move on Dave the Harp through turn 1. So with the straight line advantage of the VW, got that move done. SGP all over the back of SRI now, and SRI going defensive early. Oh, but he's left a bit of a gap, and then he said, no, there is no gap there. Bugger off. Well, he wouldn't have said that, he'd have said something completely different. But I was going to say, with SRI in that Subaru, it's kind of catch-22. If he defends, he's going to lose time. If he doesn't defend, he's got the opportunity of keeping SGP behind him anyway.
Yeah, these two in some ways need to work together, because they don't want to let Steve F1 pull away, because we've seen him win races this season. So yeah, it is as you say, a bit of a catch-22 for both of them, and that's what can happen in that corner. If you just start a little bit too early on the power, you're going to hit the wall, and then you're going to lose all the momentum down the straight.
Yeah, that you are. And SGP got a decent run on SRI now. I mean, SRI may have been better off just trying to sit in Steve F1's slipstream, but he's gone defensive. SGP's going to try around the outside. It didn't work last time. He's braked a bit earlier this time to try and get the switch back, but SRI's having absolutely none of it, as Tyler's now closing in on this battle, and actually so is Dave the Harp.
Yeah, you can see the effect of these two fighting. Steve F1's now pulled a bit of a gap, and as you say, Tyler and Dave the Harp are closing in. So this is the dilemma for these two here. How long do they keep fighting amongst themselves? Yeah. Could ultimately cost them.
Oh, SRI, see, a little late defending the hairpin there, but managed to do just enough. But SGP's got himself up the inside, but the Subaru's going to do him easily on the acceleration there out of one hairpin and into the next. I'm just wondering whether Jason and Mitch are going to be able to start closing in on the back of Dave the Harp. I mean, this really is starting to come together a bit as a sort of a four-way battle for the lead of the race here. I mean, as far as I know as well, tyre wear around this track, I have been told, is not that severe. SGP's got a phenomenal run here on SRI as he takes out the camera.
Yeah, SGP kind of lined this one up all up, was just close enough before that long straight to then use the power of his VW to get through. So yeah, he's up into second now, and we've seen from practice SGP has probably been the quickest driver. He qualified on pole, so we could have the pace there now to reel in Steve F1.
Quite possibly, but we did also see at the last race, Jimmy, every time he got overtaken, took a position back pretty much. So we'll see if SRI is going to be able to do similar. Jason's managed to break away from the pack a little bit as Conrad and Formula Gary are swapping places behind them. So I think these guys have been battling a bit. I mean, in that pack, I would not be surprised if they are battling. So yeah, Jason is starting to close in on Dave the Harp, and and behind Jason is a bit of a gap to Connor, and then a bit of a gap to Mitch and Gary and Demon R, who's down there in 9th place at the moment. He won't be wanting that. And I mentioned about SRI coming back at SGP, and here he is trying.
Yeah, SRI is not giving up, and I think the best thing for him to do here, oh no, he's going to go for the move by the looks of it, up the inside, but the best thing he could do here is just sit in SGP's slipstream, because SGP, as I say, has been very quick throughout practice, so he could really, use that was following at SGP to get pulled along into the lead battle.
Yeah, definitely. As we're now 4 wide in the pack, as we're looking at Demon R, Formula Gary, Bunsell and Jimmy side by side. Hay is going to try and make it 5 wide, and then we've got Rich Blues right behind him making it 6 wide, and Fluffy, he's going to get in there as well. I know I said there's a few different ways into turn 1. We're about to see it. Oh God, someone's got to be ended up in the barrier surely.
Well, that was good racing. I almost closed my eyes then when I saw 5 into the same corner together. But yeah, they all managed to give each other space. So that's good to see. Oh, but I was all spoken too soon because that was Rich Blue barriers in the background. But yeah, Demon R is in a bit of a dogfight in the early stage of this race.
That is, he's also cutting the grass as Formula Gary trying to make the move around him. He's got the inside line into the hairpin. Bunsel's going to have to be a little bit careful here, but if he focuses on his exit, he may get a decent run. As we look again at SRI, once again he's right up the rear. I mean, this is the interesting thing. The Subaru is so strong from turn 1 to the final corner that if SRI can just stay in this position for the moment and potentially make an attack through turn 1, he may be able to take that second place back. But like you said, he may be better off just going, you know what, I'm just gonna not pressure SGP may close up to Steve F1 and I'll follow him in there. We've seen Steve F1 and SGP do that before on other drivers, and it can be an interesting tactic as Demon R and Formula Gary side by side. It's only 3 wide this time into turn 1.
Yeah, the other interesting thing by doing that tactic, you tend to save fuel and save tyres better when you're just following the other car in their wake. So yeah, that's beneficial on strategy too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about fuel actually, as we see Jason now all over the back of Dave the Harp, and interestingly, Dave the Harp hasn't actually dropped away from Tyler, so this is Jason showing pace, and he's having a look up the inside of Dave the Harp. Dave the Harp giving him plenty of room, because he knows that VW could understeer at any moment, and Connor's closing. So yeah, Dave the Harp's running decent pace at the moment. I mean, Jason qualified, I think he was 4th, so he's not exactly slow around this track. He's just had a bad start to the race. Talking about fuel though, I am hearing that Demon R pitted after 4 minutes. That's one of the reasons why he's at the back here, because he's making his way back through, and there's only really one reason you'd pit that early. It's because you can't make a 1-stop on the fuel, whereas other guys might be able to. So it looks like a 2-stop for Demon R, prompted very, very early. I can't imagine Steve F1, SGP or SRI are going to do anything other than pretty much try and get to 20 minutes without pitting.
Yeah, I think we've seen particularly Steve F1 and SGP, they've run that 1-stop many times this season, so yeah, you would expect they're just going to try and run the tank empty. But interesting strategy from Demon R at the moment. He's obviously in a bit of a fight, but it could pay off later on because he'll have less fuel to take on board at his next stop.
Definitely Connor making an attack on Dave the Harp, and a lovely bit of racing there as Connor gets a little bit sideways. That's going to give Dave the Harp a bit of a run on the way down to the hairpin. He's up the inside, the Alpha's good on the brakes, and the Toyota is twitchy on the throttle, and they managed to oh, there we go, Connor sideways, told you, twitchy.
Yeah, the usual thing from the Toyota, limited on rear grip, and now we're looking at the lead 2. It looks like SGP has made a bit of a gap now to SRI, interestingly. Yeah. So that will just enable SGP now. He's not going to look in his mirrors, he can just get his head down, stay on the racing line, and start to get off to the lead.
I was trying to have a quick look then at SRI's lap times to see whether he'd had a bad lap or something. I mean, I don't know if he's made an error somewhere at some point, as we've got Bunsell being bum drafted by Rich Blues. Bunsell, he loves a bit of bumping. We know that for a fact. You know he's going to be absolutely loving this, being pushed along down into turn 1 as they make it through the corner. And interestingly, for the line, Bunsell's running wide though, he's took too much speed, and here comes Rich being attacked by Jimmy. But yeah, it's fantastic stuff. stuff, this. I mean, even I was going to look in his mirror, wanting to pull away from these guys, but to be fair, when you got 3 Subarus behind you, there's not a lot you can do, which is why the likes of Twilight and Bunsel, they haven't got the straight line speed to really punish these Subarus. But in the middle sector, again, the Toyota hasn't quite got the grip, so it's going to be difficult for Twilight and Bunsel, but they are having a look at making moves.
Yeah, I mean that Subaru is just such a tough car to overtake. It's got such good traction out of the corners. You can get alongside, and then it just powers out, and you're back behind them. So, yeah, I think for any car, it's difficult enough, let alone for the Toyota, which we know just have the top end speed.
And we saw Bunsel there getting big sideways up alongside Jimmy, and by the time they'd exited the corner, Jimmy'd gone. I mentioned as well that Jason was quick around here, and he is. He's caught up to Tyler, and he's got Tyler in his sights. He's making the move straight away, no messing about. But gotta say, the whole field is still very, very close together. This is brilliant stuff. So Tyler, I don't know if Tyler's been trying to save a bit of fuel or something, or whether that's perhaps what SRI has ended up doing. Is Tyler going to attack back? No, he's just sitting there in Jason's mirror, which suggests to me he's not looking at trying to retake the position at the moment, as the 3 Subarus go side by side once again.
Yeah, the Subarus battling amongst themselves, but it's all clean and respectful so far. But
Bunsel, big sideways.
And he's done very well to hold on to that one. But yeah, good to see Jason. He's had a good couple of results now in the VWs. He's starting to hit some form in that car. He could be one to kind of watch as this race develops, and now we're starting to see the leaders getting close. Yes. SGP now right onto the back of Steve F1.
SGP has put in 3 very quick laps, a 17.1, a 16.6 and a 17.1, and now he's in their slipstream. The question is, as we're 14 minutes in, is he going to want to be attacking Steve F1, or is he going to want to be saving a little bit of fuel? Because if you can save a bit of fuel and have a shorter pit stop, it could benefit you big time. Jason, he's also been into the 16s as he's all over the back of SRI. Jason is absolutely flying it at the moment. It's a good job he's a pilot.
And look at the gap already, it's pulled on Tyler. So yeah, you're right, Jason's at the moment he's showing a rapid pace. And he's just done a 1:16.8 on that last lap, which is that's qualifying style pace that. So yeah, he's really got his between his teeth there.
He has. SRI's making it difficult for him in the middle sector, which has allowed Tyler to get right back into this fight. But it's SRI has decided to go and take a day trip. That's unfortunate, but you know what, I think he's still ahead of Tyler. He is. He'd been off on the grass and he's still ahead of Tyler. That's fantastic, Ray. Well done, you cheat. SGP all over the back of Steve F1. This is where Steve F1 could really be a sitting duck down the main straight, but this is where we will find out whether SGP is just going to be saving a little bit of fuel. But interestingly, Steve F1, it's been requested that we ride on board with one of the drivers for a lap, so why don't you take us for a lap on board SGP around the Blue Moon Infield A?
So yeah, we've got the long straight into turn 1, and at the end of this straight you've got several different lines you can take. In this VW you probably need to take the tighter line to try and get the car rotated and kind of cure the understeer, but then you power out, use the banking on the exit, and now you come to turn 2, a very fast left-hander, 4th or 5th gear, throw it in, lift off to then keep you hugged to the inside, and then this blind kind of right-hander, very easy just to understeer off onto the grass there and lose lots of time. Now down this short back straight, brake just as you get to the bridge for this tight hairpin, second or third gear depending on what car you're in, and you see SGP hooking the curb there and getting a bit of oversteer. And then this is a very technical couple of corners here. You have to kind of slow the car through the middle to then give yourself a good exit from that corner. The exit speed really important here, as it is through here. Don't understeer into the wall here. Exit is vital to get the speed all the way down the straight, flat out through this banked corner, get into the slipstream, which is doing here to give you a nice little run across the line and onto another lap.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating stuff there. And considering that I didn't tell you that that's what was going to happen, you've done really, really well there. What I did find very, very interesting there is how much SGP was actually lifting and coasting, especially sort of down into turn one. He's definitely sort of saving fuel, but the frightening thing is the speed that he's still taking through the corners. I mean, he's doing mid-17 lap times, and there's 14 guys behind these two that are kind of wishing they could go that fast while fuel saving. Oh, Connor's in a battle. Has Connor pitted? Because he wasn't this far back. He must have pitted recently, which means he's now all over the back of Mitch with a gaggle of madmen behind him.
Yeah, speaking to some of the VW drivers, one of the key parts about driving that VW quickly, you have to use the higher gears because of the understeer, the front wheel drive. So using the higher gears actually is the quicker way to drive the car, and the benefit of that is to save more fuel as well.
Yeah, definitely. Connor has pitted recently because looking at his lap times, he's done a 132, a 111 and a 115. So yeah, he's flying at the moment, but that's because he's managed to get some of the boost. What he's going to have to be careful of is being held up here by anybody else who hasn't pitted yet, because we're 18 minutes in and Connor having pitted. This is what we mentioned about Demon R earlier. Demon R knows the Toyota can't get to 20 minutes, so he's pitted early. Connor's realised it, but he's pitted after about 16, 17 minutes. So Connor's on a two-stop. Jason into the pits. Is he trying to get an undercut? Because he had enough fuel for another lap. Is he trying to get an undercut on the leaders?
Oh, that's a bold one to get to the end from here. That's going to be really touch and go, I think. So, yeah, that's interesting. We haven't seen how much fuel Jason's put in. Is he going to go to the end? That's going to be touch and go, I think, from this stage of the race.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how far these two go, because we know that SGP, we can see that he's just sitting behind Steve F1 at the moment. He's not attacking him. He's not making Steve F1 go defensive. So they're both going quick as Gary's trying to cover Conrad off at the moment through that middle sector. We've still got a mad battle going on, and SRI has been caught up by Demon R. SRI is being caught by Demon R. SRI has not pitted yet, so he's falling back a little bit, but his tyres are going to be on the way out as well, potentially, as Conrad or Mitch side by side. So are these two going to cover Jason off? If these guys continue on a lot, then it would suggest that is Steve F1 going for the pits? No, he's not. So fuel wise, these two are okay for another lap.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, maybe they are just both committed to running the tank empty and using the light fuel to help them pull away, because they don't seem to be battling either. They do seem to look like they're working together.
Yeah, someone in the background, formerly Gary, I think that was, has headed into the pits as Demon R trying to make a move around the outside of SRI, giving each other plenty of room there, plenty of social distancing in play, but SRI is going to still fight that position, and rightly so. But yeah, I mean, for Steve F1 and SGP, I mean, what I'm thinking is if they can kind of get to 22 minutes, then that would suggest that Jason may be able to do a 22-minute stint.
Yeah, that could play into his hands later on, potentially, with that undercut. But yeah, lovely move there from Demon R through turn one there, using the grip of the outside line to go around the outside of SRI, and SRI showing great awareness as well and giving the space.
And he is. We've seen SRI have decent runs down the start finish when he was behind SG. Look at he's got so much more acceleration, and having a look up the inside, Demon R has to take the wider line, misses the barrier, but SRI, I think he had to take it even tighter. SGP is into the pits, so he's only managed to do 21 minutes, but Steve F1, he's carrying on, and so is Tyler, as we've got Demon R coming in for his second pit stop, and SRI following him in. I think there's somebody else in the pits there as well. It was Dave the Harp, I think. I could be wrong, as Twilight and Rich are battling. No, there's Dave the Harp. And there's Jason as well. So Jason, he's made his pit stop, but now he's in the pack.
Yeah, this is a key part of the race now on strategy. And who was that going wide?
It was Hay. I think, it was Hay. He's there he is. I thought he disappeared. I saw the big puffs of smoke. But interestingly, Jason has jumped SGP.
Interesting, yeah. This is that undercut's really worked, hasn't it, for Jason? He really has. So yeah, just going those couple of laps earlier, yeah, just shows the power of the undercut in the DGT league.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the question is, has he been able to do that and save some juice? I think SGP just put Jimmy a bit sideways. Maybe he wanted Jimmy to know what having oversteer's like.
Listen, I think SGP now, seeing Jason at the road, he can't afford to sit here now. He's got to get after Jason to avoid him putting out a big gap. And Hay doing a bit more grass cutting there by the looks of it. Yeah. And that will just play into the hands of SGP though, because now with the dirt on the tyres, that should be an easy pass, and it is.
Okay, this is fascinating. Tyler is into the pits, and he had to be. Steve F1 though has carried on as Rich is heading over to the pit lane, and so is Mitch. Mitch has got 47% of fuel, so I wondered if he's been in a couple of times. Demon R is looking there now, sitting in 9th place behind Hay, but I think not that far behind SGP, and SRI is a position behind him, but not quite close to him at the moment. So what have we got here? Let's see. There's Jason behind Dave the Harp, and then SGP is right behind him. So this is fascinating. Steve F1 is showing now that you can do 20. Oh, Dave the Harp, big tank slapper.
He's doing well to hold on to that one. I thought he was just going straight into the barriers there. But yeah, Steve F1, yeah, he's gone a couple of laps at least further than SGP on the fuel, so that's interesting. It'll be interesting though whether we get caught out by the undercut in the way that the SGP did. And in fact, yeah, Steve F1's coming to the pit, so we're about to find out.
Well, interesting to see how much fuel he's actually going to have left, because that would kind of indicate how much fuel saving. He had 5%, so he's done quite a lot of fuel saving there. Question is, where's he going to come out though? But I mean, he's not going to have to fill up the tank, because he's only got to go 16 and a half minutes through this race. As SGP having a look up the inside of Dave the Arp, I think Dave the Arp realises no point fighting that one. As Conrad also into the pits from second place at the moment. Twilight heading into the pit lane, and Steve F1, I believe, is coming out of the pits. Yes, he is. He's coming out of the pits in the lead of the race, but I don't know how much fuel he's got on board. That he can't have filled up. There's no way he's filled up and kept that lead.
Well, either he's short filled or he's not taking tyres. Either way, yeah, he's definitely had a shorter pit stop than some others to get the lead. So yeah, this one definitely isn't over. Either he's got to do some big fuel saving, or he's got old tyres on the car. Yeah, he's definitely not over.
He's either going to do some big fuel saving or some big fast laps. Interestingly, Connor having done... Hang on, we saw Connor pit not long ago, 14 minutes. So Connor's done about 10 minutes since his last pit stop. As Rich is having a bit of a look at the back of Hay. I'm trying to work this out a little bit now. So Jason has jumped SGP. Dave the Harper's managed to jump Demon R, Tyler and SRI. Demon R has managed to jump Tyler. SRI is closing in on the back of Tyler, and I think SRI must have taken tyres, because he pitted at the same time as Demon R and came out about 6 or 7 seconds behind him. So this is very interesting stuff at the moment. Tyler, we know he's quick. Oh, Demon R's in the barrier. That's going to be an easy pass for Tyler.
Yeah, and I'm hearing from the pits that Steve F1 did take fresh tyres, but he only half filled the tank. The plan, we believe, from the team is that he's going to try and use the yellow fuel load to pull out enough of an advantage to pit the second time and come out in the lead.
Interesting. So Tyler makes the move. Dave the Harp had 48% fuel in his car. Obviously he wasn't going to get to the end, but I would wonder whether he'd been better off just running that tank dry and then putting in the fuel that he needs. We'll see how it works out. For Steve F1 though, it could be disaster. We saw what happened when Demon R tried it in Spain last week. He went from the lead to almost last and only just finished third. And part of the reason for that is because he couldn't pull away in that second stint. So if Steve F1 has got, Mitch, Twilight,
yeah, you can just see the difference there between the more stable Alpha and the rear limited Toyota there, which one ended up spinning and dipped the wheel on the grass.
Yeah, definitely. So Steve F1 he's got to pump in some phenomenal laps. He's got a decent gap at the moment. It's probably about 6, maybe 7 seconds. I mean, he's got the pace that if he pits and comes out sort of right behind SGP, he'd be okay, but I don't know if that's going to happen. We're going to have to wait and see. One question would be, do Jason and SGP know that Steve F1 can't get to the end?
Yeah, that's a good question. They might not. And of course, at the moment, they're focused on each other because they're both battling for second place. And now we've got the two Toyotas, Connor and Bunzel, going side by side, and another Toyota in the background. It's Twilight recovery and looking for the move on Gary? Is he going to get it done?
I think he might, because Gary looked like... No, Gary went a little wide, but he's taken that high, fast line that I mentioned earlier. Great stuff. So Connor's managed to get ahead of Bunsell, and they're closing in on Mitch. Twilight's staring at the back of Gary's Subaru. I was going to say something very different then, but I'm glad I didn't. And not only is he staring at that, as he's having a look now, making the move up the inside. Gary covers it off quite nicely. We've got Jimmy closing in on the back of this pack as well. I've got to say, I really don't know how this race is going to pan out. It's kind of taken unusual twists and turns.
Yeah, I think that's all spiced up the race. I mean, you've got different strategies, and definitely this one, it's still anybody's at the front. Although it does look like, again, it's going to be a VW, unfortunately for the others, because it is at the moment, I think we've got VWs first, second, third and fourth.
Yeah, you're right, we have. I mean, yeah, it doesn't bode well for the argument of the VW is not the best car, but what I will say is Gary and Jimmy are giving Bunsell a run for his money down the straight, and so is Twilight. 4 wide, we're going to go then. Oh, two Twilights. I meant 2 Toyotas, not 2 Twilights, against 2 Subarus, and how's it going to end up? Everybody gets through there quite nicely. Not bad.
Gary's really got working that outside line beautifully. He's just done the same again.
Oh, not the outside line, no.
Definitely not the outside line through that corner, Gary. That's not going to end well.
Oh,
Mitch. Mitch, I know he likes a bit of drifting, but that's definitely not going to work through there. And indeed, there goes Connor. He takes advantage, and he's up into 7th.
Yeah, we saw what happened to Twilight when Twilight and Mitch both dipped wheels in that corner previously. That time Mitch dipped all wheels in the corner, and he's going to be struggling a bit now because he's going to have dirty tyres, but this track will clean them up fairly quickly. Connor, though, I think he's fueled to the end. He pitted with, 16 minutes to go in this race, so I think he can get to the end. The question is, can he close in on SRI, who's an absolute mile up the road at the moment, as Mitch now comes under pressure from Fluffy Planet and Bunsell. And Twilight's managed to get ahead of Mitch as well.
Yeah, and here comes Bunsell. He's on the back of Fluffy in that battle for 9th place. Oh, and here comes Dave the Harp. I think he must have pitted and he's recovering. He's looking for a move up the inside of the lot of them.
He's giving it a go. So we've got 3 Alphas on a Toyota. Oh, Fluffy! Annihilation! It could have been worse. He's taken out Twilight, I think, unfortunately. He tagged the side of Dave the Harp as well. As interestingly, you know what? I mean, I know we've just sort of come back to have a look at Jason and SGP. They've been following each other for a while, or should I say SGP has been following Jason for a while. But because the races are kind of 40 minutes long, I think the drivers tend to look at them in 10-minute segments. So for Steve F1 and SGP, they're going to be looking at this now. Sorry, for Jason and SGP, they're going to be looking at this now. 10 minutes to go. What is Steve F1 doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At the moment, I don't know whether these two are going to save a bit of fuel or whether they're just expecting that Steve F1 is going to pit again. But yeah, they're doing some playing a waiting game here. Something, although SGP is now trying to go for the move, but then opts to tuck in behind Jason.
Interestingly, they lap times, they're in the 16s. They are, yeah, they are absolutely flying. So if Steve F1 was wanting to open up a gap, it's not happening for him at the moment. Yeah, I mean, these two, both of them, I mean, if SGP's doing 16s, then Jason's doing 16s. That's absolutely phenomenal. Tyler is, I can't tell if Tyler's closing in on them, but interestingly, Demon R has fallen way off the back of Tyler.
Yeah, the pace of these two, actually, looking at it in the 16s is phenomenal. We're giving their fuel to the end, and Steve F1 isn't. This is bad news for Steve F1 because he doesn't look like he is edging away at all. These two are matching him lap for lap, even though on the slightly higher fuel load. If
that's the situation, then is Steve F1 going to be better off getting into the pits as early as possible to try and recover, have more laps to recover, or does he drain the tank?
Yeah, well, he maybe still believing he can edge the gap as this fuel gets lighter and his car effectively gets quicker, maybe he's still believing he's just going to go to the end of the tank and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, Hay all over the back of Fluffy. Jimmy's got a good run out of that final corner though. Well, I suppose it's the penultimate corner, isn't it? But yeah, still got a phenomenal run. So we've pretty much got 4 Alphas in a line here. Brilliant. And 2 Subarus making the overtakes on the straight. The Subaru is better than the Alpha.
Yeah, mind you, it's not a bad idea from the Alphas. They lack straight line speed to tow each other along and actually help them. Although they're going side by side here. Dave the Harp getting the move, keeping ahead of Fluffy, and now here comes Jimmy again, throwing a good fight here up the inside. Takes the position from Fluffy, and the Alphas are both off.
I don't know if Fluffy was assisted there. Dave the Art wasn't, unfortunately. He's just under. Oh, SRI. He's closed the gap in on Demon R. Amazingly, Demon R might be falling off the back of Tyler. His lap times are consistent, his SRI. So he's catching up to Demon R. Now Demon R's, Oh, SRI. He's spotted a bit of grass that Mitch hasn't cut yet, so he's decided to do a bit of maintenance around the circuit. Oh, Demon R tags the wall. You know he's going to be a sitting duck now. But this is where SRI needs to have the confidence in himself and the car. If he's in position, it doesn't matter who it is in front of you. Go for it.
Yeah, he just needs to use that. The fantastic traction that car has. He doesn't need to go for a lunge up the inside. He just needs to position his car out of one of the slow corners and let the car do the work. But yeah, he's driving brilliant at the moment to stay with Demon R.
Yeah, that he is. Rich Blues just ahead of Dave the Harp, who's trying to have a look at the inside, and Hay is there as well with Fluffy around the outside. Gary getting in on the back of this as well as Jimmy's in the mix. Oh, this is interesting. Twilight's approaching all this as well. This is fantastic stuff. Oh, bit of contact between Gary and Fluffy, and Jimmy's around, and Dave's in the wall again at that same corner.
Yeah, turn 1 you can really go for it. 2 Mitch's favourite corner, that one, isn't it? But yeah, that second sweeping left, you just 2 or 3 wide through there, it just doesn't work, unfortunately. There just isn't the grip on that outside. Hang it around the outside.
Absolutely. I'm looking at Steve F1's lap time, 17.0, 17.1, 16.9, 17. Phenomenal lap times, but not as fast as those guys behind him. So he is into the pits for, he may even be for another set of tyres. No, I think you said he took tyres, didn't he? So it's going to be fuel to the end. Oh, where's he going to come out though? He's still in the pit lane at the moment.
This could be close for the lead. In fact, no, Steve F1 hasn't come out yet. No. These 2 are well ahead. That really hasn't worked for Steve F1. In fact, looking at the timing tower, he's down to 4th. So yeah, that really hasn't worked out.
Oh, disaster potentially for Steve F1 then, as SRI, I've just seen on the timing tower as well, has managed to get ahead of Demon R, as we've seen Jason take the lead of the race. So him pitting early, it's worked for him, because now with 6 minutes to go, he's leading the race, and there is Tyler, who we believe can get to the end, and Steve F1, who has just made that final pit stop. Oh, this is really building. Jason now may have to start thinking about defending, because obviously for these 2, SGP having a look up the inside. Oh no, he's backed out of it, and I'm glad to see that. That's one of those corners, I've got to admit, I like driving it, but I hate racing that corner, because the fastest way through it makes people behind you think doors wide open there.
You're absolutely right, yeah, because it's so important to get a good exit there to then give you the slingshot onto the straight. But if you do take the normal line, you can get that situation that we saw there with SGP get up the inside, and now he's going for it into turn 1. He's going to take the lead.
That he is. So if he was sitting behind Jason to try and save some fuel, or just sort of play the patient game and slowly catch up to Steve F1, with Steve F1 pitting, that answered any questions they had. So SGP, maybe he's decided now's the time to go. I mean, looking at their lap times, I mean, holy cow, 16.7, 16.8, 16.7. Their lap times have been absolutely frighteningly fast. Jason, though, if he needed at any point to save some fuel, he could try and do that now, because being behind SGP, he's got the opportunity to do that. For Steve F1 though, I think he might be kicking himself, but either way he's got to try and attack Tyler, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just got to get his head down, Steve F1 now. He'll know he's got the fuel to go to the end, so he's just got to try and make up a couple of positions for the end if he can, because SGP, he's now leading the race his closest title rival could be taking some big points out of him. But now what have we got here? It's 3 wide into the hairpin. Rich up the inside of Dave the Hart, and he's nice move from Rich there. But Dave the Hart's not giving this one up. He's coming back into this little technical double left that we talked about, and Dave the Up gets the move done. Nice racing from the pair of them.
Yeah, Mitch side by side with Jimmy, bumping doors a little bit as well. Rich realising, he couldn't quite fend that one off too much, but he's in a great position now, running onto the back straight. If he can just get ahead of Dave and then slot into Gary's slipstream, he'll be absolutely fine. But Mitch is there. This is where Mitch really be benefiting from bump drafting Dave and working together a bit, as SRI running a little bit wide around the first corner into the barrier, but Demon Heart tagged the back of him. That was an opportunity for Demon Heart. I think he may have been sleeping a bit there.
Did we miss SRI passing Demon Heart? I seem to remember him being behind before, so SRI's actually got ahead of Demon Heart somewhere.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that he got ahead, but I think he was at the same. Dave the Harp, he hates that corner. Harp barrier, Harp corner. Unfortunately for Dave, as he's now side by side with Fluffy and Hay in the background, with Jimmy checking out Mitch's grass cuttings from earlier on, as Rich trying to have a look on the inside, dipping a wheel on the grass. Big sideways.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Just when you just dip a wheel on the grass and rip the brakes, that's always going to happen. You get it to spin around. So it wasn't on purpose. That was just a small misjudgment, but everyone's got going again. And now we've got Mitch. Now we're looking at SGP. Yes. And he's got a nice gap now to Jason, so SGP is now looking in a good position to win the race.
He is, and Steve F1 is closing in on Tyler, but Tyler is closing in on Jason. We've kind of got a 4-way VW battle going on up at the front. SRI made the move on Demon R at the same time that Jason took the lead and Steve F1 pitted, which is why we missed it. Connor, who we saw pit up with 16 minutes to go, is slowly catching up. Oh my goodness me. Good luck, Jimmy. Being the only Subaru in the Alpha sandwich there, but they managed to get through turn 1 quite nicely, as Jimmy, if he can hold that position, he'll get a decent exit there and potentially all of those positions into this left-hander. Dave the Arp will probably hit the barrier, as he's done a few times in that corner. So easy to do though, isn't it, into that left-hander? You run a touch wide, you get out to the dirty bit, and then you're on the grass.
Yeah, there's just no grip on that outside through there, and it's such a quick, short apex corner that you just can't hang it around the outside. But now this has been a nice lap of racing from those guys, all super clean and exciting. Yeah. And I believe we're now heading on to the last lap of the race.
Yes, we are. Jason's heading into the pit lane.
He hasn't got enough fuel. He's only got 2% of fuel, so he hasn't got enough fuel to do the extra lap.
Mitch is on the grass.
It seems to be quicker for him on the grass than it is on the black stuff.
I know in his post-race, I've seen his post-race comments, even though we're not after the end of the race, and it's not a tractor, it's an Italian lawnmower. The leaders are on to the last lap of the race. Jason, it would appear that someone has kind of got the timing wrong a little bit, and I will mention about that if I can. Holy cow, look at this down into turn 1.
Goodness me. This surely can't end well. 6 wide into the first corner. I don't even know who's going to come out on top here. A little bit of bumping, but Jimmy's on the grass. He's lost a little bit of time there, and now we get into this daunting next left-hander. Are they all going to get through cleanly?
Oh no,
it's Rich who's lost out there this time. Oh, that's unfortunate for Rich.
It's absolutely manic. This is absolutely manic. I've got to say, it's brilliant to watch though. Bunzel in there, Twilight in there, Jimmy in there, Rich in there. I mean, Gary's at the head of this train of cars, and he'll hope he doesn't have to look in his rearview mirror. But the leader, SGP, he's heading towards the finish line. That's going to make things very interesting in the championship as he takes the victory at Blue Moon. Tyler, somehow he's going to finish in second place. A great race for him with Steve F1 right up his bumper. Jason, he made the pit stop on that last lap, and he's survived to 4th. He's very unlucky there. SRI though, brilliant race for him, finishing 5th. Demon R 6th, and Conrad right up his gearbox in 7th. Gary, I mentioned he was at the head of the pack, and he really is. He's weaving. Don't celebrate too soon, Gary. He's going to finish 8th, but
well done.
Good luck calling the rest of that.
Oh my word! I don't even want to speculate who came out on top in that pack now behind the incredibly close finish.
You notice Rich Blues at the end. I don't want to be involved with them. Like, I want to cross the finish line on my own. I want to be noticeable and remembered. Either that or he ran out of fuel. But I'll go with the first one. But holy cow, what a race! What a race!
Yeah, fascinating one. I mean, in the end, yeah, probably not surprising. The VWs dominated the game, but we did see a fascinating mix of strategies between them. In the end, the early stop from Jason and the 2 stop from Steve F1 didn't quite work out, and it's SGP who deservedly won the race in the end. So you've got to say credit to him. Great performance.
Yeah, and if my maths is correct, that makes things very interesting in the championship, because I think there's only now 5 points between SGP and Steve F1. I'll confirm that shortly, but I mean, I know I kind of commentator cursed Steve F1 recently, is saying that like that could be a championship winning result at one race. I think it was it Brands Hatch? I think I said it or something like that. There was a race he won for not like it was out of on another planet. But SGP winning the last 2 races has kind of turned things around a little bit. We're now into a proper battle for the championship with 3 races to go. It's going to be very interesting. I mean, Jason though, so unlucky, pitting when he did. You know what? It worked for him, but I can only theorise at what I think he's been caught out with, and that is that we've ended up with a 31 lap race there. And I mentioned about the drivers tend to look at the race in 10-minute segments, and if you've got to 20 minutes and you've done 15 laps, you might think that the next 20 minutes is going to be 15 laps, if that's what you've been doing in practice. Now Jason's pitted a bit early, so his time is going to be out a bit, but I know that some people were doing in practice 16 laps in 20 minutes, but it was only 15 laps for the next 20 minutes because of the way the 40 minutes works on the laps. So I think Jason has unfortunately pitted 1 lap early, and yeah, it's been caught out slightly. The way I'm explaining it now sounds like he should have had more than enough fuel, but I know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. You have to remember it's although the race is 40 minutes, it doesn't actually stop at 40 minutes. It's the end of the next lap. So that is sometimes, you kind of can underestimate that. You can sometimes have that extra lap, as you say. So if you are running it on a kind of splitting your race into time segments, you've kind of got to add on that extra lap when you factor it in at the end.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that will catch you out. It's better to have 1 extra lap of tank. Than 1 too little.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing. If he'd have had the extra lap of fuel, he'd have won the race potentially. I mean, I'd love to know at what point he realised, because I mean, I'm sure a few of us have been there. Like, you go around a certain corner thinking, okay, only 2 laps to go, and then all of a sudden you're like, hang on a minute, I've only got 1 lap of fuel, and it's a very disheartening moment.
Yeah, credit to him. It says the pace he had, that even having to take that late pit stop, he still finished in 4th. I'm sure Steve F1 won't be too disappointed because he was on to finish 4th there, and that's just giving him an extra 2 points in the championship for 3rd. But great performance from Jason. You have to say.
Yeah, definitely. He was absolutely flying throughout parts of that race. Got to say that Tyler was, I think, the epitome of just keeping things calm today. Kept himself out of all the dramas, stayed away from the pack, had the pace when he needed it, and he's been rewarded with a brilliant 2nd place. You can't fault him. I mean, he's won a race in this championship, and I don't know, I mean, could he be kicking himself that there was a half an opportunity there, but sometimes it's not always easy to see what's going to be happening in the future. Got to say again though, well done to SRI, leading car that wasn't a VW, so well done to him. I mean, I know some people are thinking that the VW is overpowered and too strong, but again, for me, seeing SRI up there battling for the lead, being involved in the fight much higher up the grid, shows what that car can allow a driver to do.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. We saw it the last race as well with Rick Blues having his best ever result in the DGT. Clearly, the Subaru drivers have got a great car underneath them, but still, as I said before, you've still got to, when you're in that situation, you've still got to drive your race and make the right decisions. Rich Blues the last race, he did everything right and deserved his 6th place in the same letter. I like to know the way he managed that race was superb. You know, he kept those BWs under pressure early on, and then he's hunted down and passed Freeman, the 6-time champion at the end. He's not the easiest guy to beat, and you've got to give a lot of credit to SRO there.
Definitely. And Connor had a good race there. I'm not sure how many pit stops he did. It looked like quite a few, but a good result for Connor, and he would have been thinking, one more lap, just needed one more lap, and there's a chance he would have got Demon R as well. So a great race for him. For everybody else in the pack, I mean, I've got to say well done to Gary. He seemed towards the end to just have enough of a gap, just that 0.7 of a second, to be ahead of everybody else at the point where it counted. So it was a good result for him, but the pack is always interesting to watch. And you know what, Steve, I haven't done a joke on you today, so I think I might as well blatantly do one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. 8 championships in, and Rich Blues last week got his best result of his career. This week was his worst. It's not a joke, but I got to admit, I find it funny.
I don't want to
I'm sorry, Rich. I love you. I do. But yeah, it's sod's law. That's the way it goes. That's the way life goes sometimes. You have big highs and you have low lows. Look at it this way though, unless he disconnects next week, it can't get any worse.
Well, yeah, there's only 16 spots on the grid, so you can't get worse than that really, non-start, I guess.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting race in the pack. Okay, I've got a couple of important announcements, or a important announcement I need to mention before we go and check out the confirmed race results and the championship standings. So let me just get my information. Don't worry, Steve, this isn't a build-up to a joke. This is actually, I've got an announcement. So a message from the DGT League admins, which is an important notice about the start date of the Anniversaire de Historique, which is the Mazda 787 Championship we're doing after the Special 4 Cup. It was due to start on the 15th of October. However, it's not. It's going to start on the 8th of October, and this is 1 week sooner than previously advertised, as the admins are working on something special for the Xmas and New Year period. This means there will only be one Thursday of no league racing between this championship and that one. And then in brackets at the end, please make sure Fluffy knows, with him missing the first race this championship. So that is quite an important announcement, and in addition to that, there is at some point going to be, I believe, a live stream explaining why that is all happening and what is going to be happening over the Christmas period, but I can't tell you when that is because I don't know yet. So yeah, be aware, information will be coming soon.
Yeah, I can't wait from that. From what I heard, that's going to be something very special. So yeah, I can't wait to get that announcement on what the right.
Well, you know what? I think you know more than I do. Then bloody hell. Well, we'll have to wait to see. I do know. I mean, me personally, I want to know sooner rather than later. So I'm trying to find out very, very quickly. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, Steve, thank you very much for joining us on the commentary today.
You're welcome, enjoyed it as always.
Yep, it's been good fun. And yeah, let's check out what that result has done to the Special 4 Cup Championship standings. Confirmation then of the race result. SGP taking the victory and the maximum 20 points. Tyler finishing second place takes 17, and Steve F1 finishing in third place scores 15 points, with Jason in fourth, SRI a brilliant result in fifth, Demon R in sixth, just ahead of Conrad in seventh, who had a fantastic race towards the end, and for the first bit as well. Formula Gary finished ahead of the crazy pack in 8th place, and then Dave the Harp 9th, Mitch 10th, Twilight in 11th, and Fluffy in 12th. Hay managed to finish in 13th place, with Jimmy in 14th, Bunsell 15th, and unfortunately for Rich Blues, running out of fuel on the final lap dropped him down to 16th place. And how cruel is this? There's no point for 16th place, unfortunately. That's not me saying there's no point for Rich Blues. There is a lot of point for Rich Blues. He's a lovely guy, and he gathers together all of the post-race comments, which I really do appreciate. I might give him some grief sometimes, but that's because, unknowing to most of the viewers, is really ruthless, which is why his Meet the Drivers comment was sweet like Marmite. That pretty much I think describes him very well. Okay, let's take a look at what that result then has done to the championship standings. So 6 races down, 6 wins for the VWs, but I've got to say, we're in for a championship battle. Steve F1 leading the way on 107 points. SGP with his 2 back-to-back wins has closed that gap, as I mentioned earlier, to 5 points on 102. He's going to make an interesting end to the season. Tyler, I think unfortunately he may be too far away to battle for the title, but he has jumped ahead of Demon R, so Tyler now sits in 3rd place on 76 points, with Demon R in 4th on 75. Jason has managed to make a few moves, I think, sitting in 5th place on 55 points now. SRI in 6th place on 49, and he's 5 ahead of Dave the Harp, who sits in 7th place. In 8th is Twilight on 39 points, and then not too far behind is Rich Blues. Unfortunately didn't score any points today, but still holds on to 9th place and 34 points. Formula Gary is sitting in 10th place now on 32 points, only 2 behind is one of his rivals, Rich Blues. Mitch on his return manages to bag a few more points, so it's 11th place for him on 29, and then we've got Fluffy and Conrad now sharing 12th place on 24 points each, and they're 1 ahead of Hay on in 14th place on 23 points. Jimmy sits in 15th on 17 points, and Bunsell is 16th on 13 points. Well, what an absolutely phenomenal race we've had here at Blue Moon Infield A. I've got to say, it's been absolute pleasure to watch and commentate on, and yeah, keep making it interesting, guys. It's absolutely brilliant to watch. Next up, the DGT League is going to be heading to the Red Bull Ring. It's a track that shouldn't suit the VWs, which means the VW is going to win. It could be a very interesting one from the bit of practice I've seen the guys doing so far. Fuel is on the limit for a 1 stop, so it looks like 2 stops may be the way to go. Tyres could also be a little bit tricky because they don't get much of a rest there, even though from the final corner to turn 2, it's a proper corner, turn 2, yeah, there's not a lot going on for the tyres. The rest of the track though can punish them a lot. It'll be interesting to see who's going to be successful there, what's going to happen with those top 2 in the championship. Maybe Tyler can spring a late charge, he's won a race this season, maybe he can take a title fight, or are we going to get our only the 2nd ever 2-time championship winner in the DGT League? So there's one way to find out, folks, and that is to come and join us next time out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again soon.